Hi, my name is Peter Smith. I'm the Assistant Director of Studies at Merit School Barcelona, and welcome to the first in a series of teacher training videos suitable for all teachers, but in particular those who teach English as a foreign language. I hope you find them useful. This first video is on a topic which I think is one of the most important tools that a teacher can have in their teacher's toolkit. But when I did a search on YouTube for other videos, I couldn't find any, and that is on the subject of monitoring. So, what is monitoring and what isn't monitoring? Well, to me, monitoring isn't the teacher hiding behind their desk, avoiding their students, scribbling something on a piece of paper, thinking about the next activity, looking for the answers in the teacher's book. Monitoring is getting close to your students, supporting them, watching what's going on and keeping everything moving. To me, it's a bit like spinning plates. You've got to first of all make sure all the plates are spinning. Some of them are going to be moving faster than others. If you step too far back, what's going to happen? Some of them are going to fall and they're going to crash. So your objective really is to get close enough so you can keep all the plates spinning, and if some of them start to go a bit slower, that's when you need to get a bit closer and just give them a little push, whether it's a bit of support or whether it's a bit of motivation or a bit of encouragement, but you've got to make sure that all the plates are spinning. So that's the importance of monitoring, getting close to your students, making sure the activities are progressing and keeping everything moving forward. So, what are the advantages of monitoring? I think there are 5 main advantages. The first one is timing. These days in English language teaching we seem to have a lot of things to do, and I think monitoring can help with the timing in 4 main ways. The first way is that you can see who's on task, who's doing what they should be doing. The second thing is that you can see who's off task, who's not doing what they should be doing, and you can get them back on track. The third way is you can see who's having problems with the activity. So basically you can give them a little bit of support which then moves the activity on faster. And finally you can see when everybody has finished the activity, just literally by seeing when people are coming to the end of the activity, so you can wrap it up early, so you don't have to go on and on and on for 10 minutes or 5 minutes if everyone has pretty much finished. The second advantage of monitoring is that you can support your students. Obviously, the students aren't all going to be doing everything perfect. So the fact that you're very close to them, listening to them, means that you can give them support, whether it's when they're looking for a word, or when they're having a problem with grammar, or just with some correction. Support is really important. A third advantage of monitoring is that it's more motivating for the students. The fact that someone is there listening to them and paying attention to what they're doing, it sort of means that they really have to get on with it. If the teacher hides in the corner of the classroom, the students might lose interest in the task, they might find it difficult, they might lose motivation, they might just switch to their own language, and you're not aware of it. But the fact that you're very close to them listening means that they have a sense that they've got to get on with it, so it's more motivating for them. A fourth reason for monitoring is that sometimes you need to actually grade your students on their speaking. So rather than just sort of guessing a mark out of the air from sort of a vague idea, by actively being close to your students and listening to them and taking notes, you can obviously grade things like pronunciation, the extent of their discourse, their grammar, their vocabulary, their interaction. So monitoring is a way that you can grade your students more accurately. And finally, and possibly the most important, is that monitoring shows that you care. The fact that you're actually getting close to your students, that you're helping them, that you're listening to them, that you're supporting them, that you're taking note of their errors and giving them feedback, it really shows that you're interested in your students, and that is good, and that will build a bond with your students. That's possibly one of the most valuable things that monitoring can bring. So, how do you monitor? I think there are 2 things that you should be thinking about when you're thinking about how you monitor. One is your physical positioning in the classroom, and secondly is your focus. So by your physical positioning, I mean where you are and how you're moving, and your focus, what your objectives are when you're monitoring, and what you're listening for, and what you're responding to. So in terms of your positioning when monitoring, I think it does depend a little bit on the setup of the classroom. If it's possible for you to actually sort of monitor behind your students, if you've got tables or if your chairs are forward, then that's the ideal, because obviously you're not intimidating them, they can't see you, and you can listen. But sometimes in many classrooms the chairs are like round the edges and it's impossible to get literally behind your students. So in this case I think the best piece of advice is, well, this is what I was told when I was training, was to just simply sit down, grab a chair, get it close to your student, maybe put a few chairs around the room and sit down. Then you can relax, you can listen to what's going on, and then you can move around to listen to different groups. I think it can be intimidating for students if you're standing and you're literally hovering over them, waiting on their every word, and students do have a tendency to clam up when they feel under pressure. So one technique that you can use is you can sit down with a chair, but you could be looking over to one group of students while you're actually listening to another group. And obviously, with a notebook and a pen, taking notes on what you're hearing. That way, there's a little bit less performance pressure on the students. Another thing that you need to be aware of is the fact that you need to keep your eye on the other students. You can't just be focused blindly on one group, because if other students think that you're not listening to them, they might switch off or they might stop speaking. So again, it's back to the spinning plates. You've got to keep your eye on the whole room to see what's going on, and if you can see that one of the plates is slowing down or about to fall, get over there and either give the support or the motivation or the encouragement that's necessary. So in terms of focus, I think the focus changes throughout the activity. At the beginning of an activity, what I like to do is I like to see that everybody's on task. So you've set the instructions and you hope that people have understood them, but usually you've got some students who are maybe less able or less willing, and you want to make sure that they're on task. So I usually go to those students first, and just to make sure they understand what they have to do, and they're doing it. And then I quickly move around the room just to make sure that everybody is doing what they should be doing. The middle stage of the activity is very much like the plates. You've just got to keep your eyes open and just keep spinning those plates so that everything's moving. And the last stage of monitoring is really knowing when to finish. It's not necessary to wait until every single person has finished the task. I mean, generally, if the majority of the students have finished or are close to completion, that is the time when you can wrap up the activity and save a little bit of time. Obviously, if someone has finished very quickly, you might want to check whether they've done the activity correctly. You might want to ask them to do it again, or you might want to give them something else to do. But you shouldn't really leave anyone just sitting there doing nothing. So by monitoring and keeping your eyes on everyone, you can basically make the activity completely effective throughout the whole activity. You can also monitor during listening and reading activities. You might be thinking, well, how can I monitor a listening activity? I mean, the students are just listening, they're just sitting there. What can I do? Well, one thing you can do is you can go around and you can see what answers they're putting. So if you have the teacher's book with the answers, just go around and just take a little note of which questions they're getting right and which questions they're getting wrong. Let's say you notice that everybody is getting questions 1 and 3 wrong. Then when you finish the activity, you might want to spend a little bit more time maybe reviewing the tape script, or maybe checking vocabulary where the students have got a little confused, or maybe the distractors, how they got distracted. And so you don't need to waste a lot of time on the answers they got correct. They got the answers correct, so that's good news. But spend a little bit more time on clarifying how they got confused in maybe the other parts. Similarly, on a reading, you can monitor during a reading in the same way. If you see students have made a mistake, you could either maybe signal that they've made a mistake, or suggest they review part of the text, or maybe ask them any vocabulary that they didn't understand, or just to justify their answer, but basically just to help them out a little bit during the task. Again, some students will have finished. What are they going to do when they finished? Well, if they've got 2 answers wrong, maybe you could just tell them there are a couple of mistakes, so they can spend a little bit more time reviewing their work. Maybe they've got it all right. Well, you can tell them to look at the text, find some words maybe that are less familiar, write some definitions, look those words up in dictionaries, get ready to define those words to other students when the activity is finished. So it's all about maximising the time. So monitoring is effective during speaking activities, during grammar activities to support students, and also during listening and reading activities. So I think that's about all I've got to say about monitoring. I just hope as a result of this video that you do spend more time close to your students and maybe less time hiding behind the desk. Well, if you've got any ideas of your own, maybe you've got some ideas about how you monitor and some successes that you've had, then great. I think the tradition is to put some comments down below the video, and if you like the video, I think you know what to do. So the next video will be on error correction. So until then, I hope you found this useful, and I'll see you then.